Good evening and welcome everybody.
You're not live yet. One second.
Okay.
Now
Sorry.
you're live. Go.
Good evening and welcome everybody to Glasgow in 2024 Presents. My name is Sarah Johnson and I am part of the promotion teams that brings you these fabulous YouTube events. Tonight I'm delighted to be talking with the creative team from Tales from the Aletheian Society. But before we begin, I would like to just run through a couple of admin things. The first of which is that for all Glasgow in 2024 events, we have in place a code of conduct. And it's a fairly uncompromising and I hope fairly straightforward code of conduct. And that is that we tolerate no hate speech, no racism, no homophobia, no anti-transphobia or anti-trans speech, no bullying. In general, be excellent to one another, be good humans. There will be no warnings. One transgression and you're out. However, I can't imagine that anyone will be doing that this evening. And certainly we have had no problems in events previously. But I do also want to welcome anyone who is coming to the Glasgow in 2024 events for the first time. What is Glasgow in 2024? Well, what it is that currently we are in bid mode to encourage people to vote at this year's Worldcon to vote for Glasgow to be the venue for the 2024 Worldcon. If you would like to find out more information about this, then if you go to glasgow2024.org, you will find out more information about Worldcon, about the Glasgow bid, and in fact, everything possible Worldcon. Now, we're here for Tales from the Aletheian Society, and so I would like to invite to the screen the fabulous Jude Reid, Chris Edwards, and Stoo Goff. Hello, my darlings.
Hi.
It is awesome to see you. I hope all is well in sunny Glasgow today.
Not sure about the sunny bit.
Oh, okay.
Good as it ever gets.
It's been reasonably sunny down here in Brighton. But yes, coincidentally, you all live in Glasgow, which means I think someone was saying that you will be right round the corner from the SEC, which is hopefully the venue for the Glasgow Con. Now, I happen to have met these lovely human beings many years previously. I have been other people and other characters in a LARPing field with Jude and Chris. And I met Stoo as the partner of a friend who was also a LARPer. But I am very pleased to have called you all friends for the last few years and very excited that you've come together in this amazing project. How did this happen?
Well, it was all the fault of another LARPer, actually, called Rich Keeling, who put together a podcast for the Guild Ball miniature wargame called Tales from the Free Cities, and got us to voice some of the parts for that. So it was a little narrative story set in the world of this this tabletop fantasy football ultra-violence game. And we enjoyed doing that so much that Chris and I decided that we should write a series of our own, and we'd already run some live-action role-playing games set broadly in the same world as the Aletheian Society, although many years later, and that seemed to be the natural setting to tell some stories about incompetent bickering occultists.
Awesome.
And Stu had all the sound stuff as well. Stu already had all the sound stuff. That's how we were recording stuff.
Yeah, so I'm a musician, so I had microphones and equipment handy and bundle around to mine and try out the Tales from the Free Cities, and then we ended up using my spare room as a recording studio for the first couple of seasons. Yeah.
Stu's also not saying that he has all the talent necessary to bring all the technical stuff together.
Complete with nightingale floors, which had like gaps in them that you could plummet into or make creak very loudly during a recording.
Excellent. That would be amazing. What kind of
issues with the first couple of recording sessions?
But I think there is in any new first outings of a new thing, whether it be a LARP or a play or a live experience. I believe that all three of you are published authors of your own. Jude, would you like to tell us a bit about that from your perspective?
Sure. Well, I'm unsurprisingly primarily a horror author, although I've been increasingly dabbling in science fiction recently. The most exciting stuff I'm working on at the moment is for Black Library, for the tie-in range, and I've got short stories out in a couple of anthologies, one called The Accursed and the other from the Crime Line, which is Sin and Sanction, and some hopefully have some upcoming news soon regarding some other stuff.
And yourself, Chris, what sort of writing?
I've had a few short stories published, but the stuff that I will work on the most is I write bits and pieces for Cubicle 7, so some of their sort of Wrath and Glory, and I've written for their Victoriana line as well, and so basically that's and for Stoo, of course, for Aegean. So yeah, nothing like as grandiose as Jude's accomplishments, but you know, it's what I can manage in my spare time.
Oh, absolutely. But for those of us who don't know, what is Cubicle 7?
They're a gaming company that have quite a few different licenses. So they publish games like Wrath and Glory's the 40k role-playing game, and they do like the Bold World Warhammer. They got Doctor Who, Victoriana. They got quite a lot of different lines. So, but yeah.
And yourself, Stu, because whilst you call yourself a musician and composer, you have actually been writing.
Yeah, so I have written some role-playing games. The Gaslight Club is a small zine quest thing, which is kind of Westworld, but with the serial numbers filed off. Aegean is my magnum opus. There's a quick start available for that. It's a Greek mythology-based role-playing game. There was a Kickstarter last year, and I'm now, I'm 90% finished, and I will forever be 90% finished, because while the book is done, it's going through design and layout and artwork and everything, which is taking as much time as the writing did. And and there'll be some supplements as well for that, which Jude is writing for and Chris is writing for. So.
Brilliant. Yes, I have a copy of Aegean, and it is very beautiful. And yes, if you want to get your classic classic era role play on, then definitely check it out. You were saying, Jude?
No, I was just going to say that the delay in getting any of those supplements over is nothing to do with what's holding the project up whatsoever. Sorry.
It's one of many delays. Everything gets delayed. I've also published a couple of other things. So as well as writing my own, I've published Action Potential, which is written by Reid, which is a kind of cyberpunk, post-human cyberpunk kind of sci-fi setting, and Wild, which is a tarot-based role-playing game about sharing dreams and entering. It's very Inception. It's all about entering people's dreams and stuff.
And are both of those written by Rhiannon's Swan Price? Or?
No, Action Potential is, and Wild is written by David F. Chapman, who actually worked on works for Cubicle 7, although I don't know if Chris knows him. Wrote the Doctor Who RPG and things like that.
Right, okay. Can people find information about you and your writings through the Tales of the Aletheian Society website?
I mean, that would be good, wouldn't it?
That would be an excellent idea, wouldn't it?
I think it's woefully out of date, unfortunately.
If you were to be sneaky and cheeky whilst we're chatting away to put into the private chat, I'm sure that our fabulous tech chap who this evening is David Green. So thank you, David. You are awesome. If you were to put it in our personal chat, I'm sure he would be able to farm those bits of information out to our wider audience. So from the wide-ranging projects that you have going on, to narrow us back to Tales from the Aletheian Society, which of course is the reason we're here, could you tell me a little bit about why Victoriana? Was it simply that you had a world that already existed and some ideas, or is it an era that particularly attracts you? What was it?
Column A, column
also,
B,
why Glasgow?
Glasgow is because we live here.
terrible accents. Yeah, we just get to.
Chris tried to say that we shouldn't set it in Glasgow. He wanted to do it in London because London would be better. And I disagree fundamentally. Glasgow is an inherently extremely spooky city. It's got the square mile of murder. Also, I thought we'd have a lot of people with Glasgow accents. We turned out to have surprisingly few people with Glasgow accents. I think actual Glasgow accents is 2, including me. And yeah, and critically, we don't have that many people with London accents. We do go to Edinburgh, though. There is Edinburgh.
Yes, you do in season 2. I'm halfway through season 2, so unfortunately, anything that happens after that, I'm no use to anyone. But for the moment, I've heard up to the middle of season.
We are very unkind to Edinburgh.
but that is as it should be at that time. The rivalry between the two cities surely is famous, infamous even.
I'm not sure it's worth it really. Glasgow's too busy fighting with itself. Really.
Right. Okay. And which bits do you think that are particularly fighting amongst itself?
Well, one of the hot topics we do touch on is sectarianism. Not hugely, but it's been a problem in Glasgow pretty much forever, and it still is. Yeah. So there's plenty of that in there.
Yes, it was certainly. I'm at a point, I think, where all of the different strings that can be pulled on the characters in terms of their allegiances and their alliances, because their allegiances can be different, but also, forces that are pushing them in certain directions. It's getting very complicated, which is awesome. There should be multiple motivations. How easy was it for you to find your main characters? Like, did they just spring to life, or did you have to coax them out, Chris?
I think I wrote a first draft, and then Jude pointed out all the ways it was terrible, and then we went and wrote a better draft, if I vaguely recall. And I think, the character that I voice mainly, so I guess I think of him mainly as my character, is a bit like Flashman, but he's a very broad stroke stereotype of a Victorian sort of gentleman. He's
adventuring
a
gentleman.
I think Jude had a lot more ideas about the other characters and better ideas about them in general.
I mean, Cadwallader certainly was the first one that it all hinged around him. You came up with him. I think we wrote Sophia and Arthur really with an eye to who was going to play them, because they're perfectly suited to the two actors who we wrote them for. And Jessie is actually an actual historical figure. She's Jess McLaughlin, she's inspired by her, who actually existed and who was arrested for a grisly and more or less unsolved murder in Blythswood Square, where a friend of hers was found hideously bludgeoned to death, probably by her employer, and Jessie went to prison for it. Right. So we imagined an alternate reality where maybe there had been an occult reason for that, and Jessie had got out of prison with a debt to repay, so that's where she came from.
Excellent. And it just suddenly occurs to me that I have dived in, having arrived halfway through season 2. I know exactly what everything is about for the Tales of the Aletheian Society. But Jude, could you maybe give us a précis of what someone would discover on coming and listening to some of the comedy horror podcast that it is?
So it's the 1870s, it's Glasgow, and so far as everybody else knows, the empire is proceeding along historical lines. But unbeknownst to the majority of the world, a secret society called the Aletheian Society has been pulling the strings to keep the British Empire safe from the occult forces that would threaten to overwhelm it. And while that all sounds very impressive, they don't necessarily recruit from the cream of society, and the people that they have working for them all have their own agendas and their own areas of expertise and incompetence. And the story starts when a bunch of seemingly unconnected agents are thrown into the previously closed Glasgow chapter house. Hijinks ensue.
The old, how did the band get together? Sort of first adventure of your tabletop role playing. Fantastic. And so Stoo had the equipment, he had a spare room. Why else did you turn to Stoo? Because I'm fairly certain there must be other reasons as well.
Expertise. Yeah.
Yeah, the music as well, the
Oh,
sound
yeah.
design for it, and the music was massive amount of stuff that Stoo brings. He composed, I think, 3 sample theme tunes for us to choose from. Undisputed master of dragging a banana along a desk and then playing it backwards to make creepy sound effects.
Carrots are the best thing for sound effects. You want bone-breaking carrots and celery, they're great.
Oh gosh, yes, I can think of exactly. Let's just say a head-turning scene that would be entirely appropriate for. There is, in fact, a listening to, I think it's episode 3 of season 1, and there is the most very, very wet, very disturbingly fleshy. Consuming fleshy sounds, and it's just like, oh my goodness, this is awful and wonderful all at once. Did you have fun with that, Stoo?
I can't remember what went into that. Yeah, but I mean,
forget who got eaten, but someone got eaten.
Sorry, yeah, it's a lot of fun putting that kind of thing together and playing with the sound as well, like playing with people's voices, panning, like getting a voice over here that's not interrupting a voice over here, and that kind of thing is it's really interesting, and I do enjoy it. It's hours. You wouldn't believe the hours that went into getting everything finished, and the amount, like, I didn't listen to any of it for a year because every episode is about 10 hours of going over it and over and over and over. So I didn't really get it to start off with because I'd heard it too much, but after about a year I listened to it properly and I really enjoyed it.
And to begin with, we could only record, I think it was 4 people at once, wasn't it? Because we could only have 2 to a mic. So there's scenes that were spliced together with extra lines put in that we had to record differently. And because we were doing it in the evenings and everybody's busy and lots of us have young kids, it actually wasn't recorded. Most of the early series weren't recorded as they come out. They were individual lines of dialogue spliced in. It was even more work for Stoo.
Absolutely.
And at the end, he would do his first draft, and then Jude and I would sit down and write a load of comments. I think this could do with a bit more spacing out here, Stoo.
Is that the same neighing horse that we had last time? And then, of course, the neighing horse became a recurring joke.
This horse doesn't really sound like it's dying enough.
Which we took with good grace, I would say.
Didn't murder us. So
not yet, anyway. Listening to some of the Minnesotas again yesterday when we were picking, or over the week when we were picking things to play, the number of slammed doors, which is the same slammed door, it kind of really shows, it really stands out when you hear them all together.
Note to self, more different effects to make doors different.
Also, we could change people storming out of rooms. It's maybe a leitmotif we've overused.
How else can we get out of this room?
I think it becomes a theme after a while. Like the pistol click for readying a gun is the same, but by now I've kind of think it would just be wrong not to have the same click for every time someone points a pistol at someone.
Indeed. And Stoo, did you turn to any particular media or any particular artists, etc., for the Foley work that you do? Because that is essentially what you're doing, Foley work.
It is, yeah.
I guess we should tell people what Foley is. Are you able to do that?
It's recording things to make them sound like other things to use for sound effects. So things like, the classic one is the coconuts.
Of course, yes, of course.
That's the classic one everyone knows. Yeah. But it's that kind of thing. It's using everyday objects possibly in a way that they weren't intended to get a noise that you wouldn't expect. I don't record everything. Yeah, just stuff. Yeah, I don't record everything myself. I have done, because it's very, like, if you want a particular sound, you could spend hours searching, or you could spend 10 minutes just recording it yourself. So for some things, it's better to use whatever's available. So there's a site called freesounds.org, which has a lot of, people can submit stuff to that. Glasgow's not a good place to get, say, cricket sounds, but you'll find cricket sounds on there, that kind of thing. Gunshots as well. Obviously, I'm not going to start shooting up the house just to record.
You might have to. If you were to do that, you might have to answer to A, Re, and B, the police, or the police, as I keep hearing in the Can you say that word as Jessie would say it, Jude?
You can't go shutting up your house, because that'll get the Polish round.
Polish, that's right.
We've actually got a minisode which is specifically to help with pronunciation.
Okay, fantastic.
Where Arthur is being taught how to speak the local language.
That's awesome. That is very good. Yes, Lord Arthur is, I guess, a clueless toff.
Yeah, pretty much. That sums him up.
Yeah, a very sweet but very clueless toff. And his partner, Lady Roxburgh, or wife, she is a whip smart Swiss German lady. I don't know enough of her background yet to say whether she comes from aristocracy or not. Oh, okay, there's things to be revealed. Excellent. And then, of course, so we've got Cadwallader, who is leading this chapter house. Can you explain? Can you explain that sort of hierarchy? What is a chapter house? What in this world?
He's only in charge due to nepotism because he is basically incompetent. He ran away to join the military because his family are historically part of the Aletheian Society, and his rather horrible and domineering aunt kept trying to force him to join the Aletheian Society and fight all kinds of godless abominations, and he wasn't up for any of that. So, but he's basically kind of, having been cashiered out, has been forced to finally take his position, and she's kind of pulled strings to get him in charge of this group, all of whom, even Lord Arthur, are basically better at this than him, really.
Gosh, even Lord Arthur.
He has a strong instinct for self-preservation, but not for anyone else's preservation. So, yeah,
sounds
probably not
right.
ideal leader traits.
No, not really. And the chapter houses, they kind of feel a little bit to me like you might find, say, Masonic lodges. Is that a reasonable sort of analog?
Yeah, I think that's the trope we were going for. Yes, it's very much that kind of behind closed doors, secret powers within the city kind of thing.
Right. Excellent. And yes, so Jude, you were saying that there were, so you have Jessie, who is a real historic character. Do you weave more history into
Obsessively, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So I'm really into Glaswegian history, and I mentioned the square mile of murder before. That was that's a mile in Glasgow, which 4 high-profile murders happened in a relatively short space of time. One of them was the murder of Mrs. Pritchard by her husband, Dr. Pritchard, who was a poisoner and also a doctor. And in fact, the reason that the chapter house has lain empty is because of the previous chapter master, Dr. Pritchard, to whom Gillespie, the caretaker, remains slavishly devoted. So the real Dr. Pritchard was part of the inspiration. We also drew on some Edinburgh history when we go over in the second series. Edinburgh doesn't have a chapter house. It's been controlled by the Unicorn Club, which is a slightly different kind of society affiliated to the Aletheian Society, run by a selection of domineering old ladies, probably.
And useless toffs.
And useless stuff. Yeah, I mean,
I see.
They get around.
That sort of also plays a little bit to the prejudices of certainly those Glaswegians coming into Edinburgh, that the people of the Unicorn Club are representative, I guess, of a lot of what they dislike about Edinburgh. Is that a fair assumption? I think, or a fair assessment?
I think they certainly they dislike the people of Edinburgh as much as they dislike each other, which is really all you can hope for.
Fantastic. And Stoo, in terms of your musical inspiration, what kind of, because I'm starting to hear motifs and bits and pieces, and the different I've lost my words, the different iterations of the theme, because I was certainly sitting there going, but hang on, we're not in Saxon times. This is very medieval.
Well, the music came about because, well, obviously we needed a theme tune, but I tried to get some sort of authentic music, and it kind of didn't really gel with me, so it didn't really work. And I like my heavy metal, and I play guitar. That's my main instrument, and
which is so very Victoriana.
Well, so I just wrote something on a guitar with a lot of distortion, and then went, okay, that'll do. It's a weird kind of 9/8 signature. It's quite hard.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's quite hard to follow. It works really well. It's hard to play on the guitar, but it works really well. And then I just put it to violins.
Absolutely, because to violins.
Violins, yeah.
Okay, and I certainly feel like there's a piano version and what sounds like a harp.
Oh yeah.
Is the harp version?
Yes, I just got a new MIDI set of instruments. So there's I had a full orchestra available, and I needed to kind of justify spending the money on it. So so I went with everything. So yeah, we've got the harp version. There's the piano version. There's a what was the
harpsichord?
I don't think there's a harpsichord. There's the organ grinder version. Yeah.
Which version? Sorry.
An organ grinder. It's kind of it's the spinny wind-up handle kind of. So there's one of those.
Oh wow! I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. So I it was kind of, once it was written, it was kind of, what can I do with this? How can I make it different? What can I change? And it's kind of a laziness, because it's easier to change something that you've already written than it is to write something new. And
yes.
I like to kind of push the boundary, push it as far as I can go with it, rather than just leave it written and move on to something else.
Yes, it's nice. I'm kind of liking the callbacks and the just hearing it just puts you in that, back into that headspace and back into that. Okay, right, we're here now. We're going to, that's right. We're heading down into the sewers. Excellent. So I guess one of the things we could do is that I could bring up the first of the minisodes that you've provided for us. I'm afraid this is going to be slightly inelegant. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. And so I will ask our guests if you wouldn't mind disappearing into the background for a little bit, and I will call you back when we are ready. If you will bear with me just a moment. Share sound, share the screen. Excellent. And so I would like, let me minimize that. I would like to welcome us to the first of the minisodes, which is Dangerous Supernatural Artifacts.
The Aletheian Society presents A Guide to Handling Dangerous Supernatural Artifacts. In the pursuit of the Society's objectives, you may well come into contact with dangerous supernatural artifacts. Everyday objects infused with malignant supernatural forces, which can pose a threat to both body and soul. Meet Geoffrey, a novice illuminate who has been confronted with what he believes may be such an artifact.
What hell?
Firstly, pay attention. Does anything seem odd, sinister, or foreboding? Have you witnessed any supernatural manifestations in the artifact's vicinity?
Bit of a rum glow about there, anything? Yes, it's leaking blood.
Congratulations. This is your first clue that you may be dealing with a dangerous supernatural artifact, or DSA.
Suppose I better pick it up then, keep it out of harm's way. Come on then, you horrible little blighter. Ah! Oh no! The vital essences are...
Secondly, never under any circumstances touch a dangerous supernatural artifact with your bare hands. The more insulating matter between you and it, the better. Meet Polly. She's also a novice, but she's thought to pick up her DSA with some mittens. Clever girl, Polly.
Looks, what a caper, eh?
Hello, Polly. How would you like £50?
Cool, 50 necker, not a half. All hail the dread prince of mice and mirrors. I serve at her undying pleasure.
Oh dear, perhaps not quite so clever after all. Polly has forgotten the third rule of dealing with dangerous supernatural artifacts. Never engage in conversation with anything supernatural, and especially do not accept any bargains. Now she's gone from being an asset to the society to a threat that will have to be dealt with. Rule 4, of course, is to place the DSA in the vaults of your nearest chapter house as quickly as possible. These are both formidably fortified and also designed to contain the supernatural threat that the object represents. But beware, the arcane projections in place around the vault can be harmful even to society members, if not approached correctly. Consult the castellan of your chapter house for more information. May the light reveal the truth.
May the light reveal the truth.
Remember, all information in these briefings is bound by oath and should not be revealed to anyone outside the society on pain of grand defenestration. Your soul is at risk if you fail to follow proper procedures.
And stop sharing. If I could invite you back, thank you very much for that. I love that. I love that so much. What was that one of your first pieces of content that you made, or when was that in the process?
It was quite a way on, wasn't it? It was after the first season, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, so you
Something to keep
started
people
getting-
happy between, I think.
Excellent. I loved how Polly went from star pupil to, oh dear. Were you inspired by any particular anything outside of Tales of the Aletheian Society, or it just seemed like a bit of a giggle? Jude.
Well, Chris wrote that one, so I defer to him on the inspiration for it.
I think it's just health and safety, really. It's just the Victorian equivalent of the health and safety video that you're forced to watch at work.
Right. Yes, of course. It strikes me, one of the things that comes to mind are things like Warehouse 13. I don't know if anyone got to see that. I think it might have been a Sci-Fi Channel show quite a while ago.
A bit of it.
Sort of, yes, it made me think of those things. And, if you picked up the glitter ball from Studio 56, then, what that might mean. Sorry, 64. Anyway. What?
It was to do with, sorry, I was going to say, it's to do with the LARPs we ran. I think we had like different classifications of magic items, and one of them was relics, which were almost always awful. And if you touched them, there'd be some horrible thing. You generally got a power, but the cost was always higher than than whatever ability you got from it. So we just kind of ported that over from the LARPs as the basis of like what society generally is dealing with.
And the players could not get enough of them in the LARPs. They were gouging their eyeballs out in character to use like Odin's artifacts and murdering each other in dark. It was absolutely brilliant. And you're right, they all had their DSA number, little tags on all these dangerous supernatural artifacts.
That's so cool. Did you have fun coming up with how those all worked? Like what kind of can I get each of you to give me what your favorite DSA is? Jude, if we start with you.
Oh, good. I get my first pick. Well, in the show, there's one that swaps them all between each other's bodies, which, without giving too much away, Arthur takes off a shelf in the vault, and they all end up having a hilarious body swapping episode. That's one of the minisodes.
And sorry, I didn't hear what object was it?
I can't even remember. Is it a
bottle? It's just a crystal. I don't think we ever mentioned exactly what it was. Just Arthur keeps saying it's very shiny.
Right.
And there's a wishing bottle. I'm not talking anymore. There's lots of them.
Oh, I like the one in this that you wrote with the scarab beetle is very good. The Egyptian thing.
Yes.
Used for the doctor, but I can't really talk about that without giving stuff away.
Yes, I was going to say, remind me how that worked again, but it is a major plot point, so let's not do that. Can you choose another one so that you can tell us about?
God, so many of them. The Lewis chess piece was something, wasn't it?
There was it's season 1 where it all goes to hell, and there is a
only season 1?
Oh well, yes.
The point at which in season 1 it all goes to hell.
I mean, in the LARP we had things like we had artifacts from all around the world, so we did like a fair bit of research and just found stuff. There was like a ceremonial bowl for taking cocaine, but obviously it was cursed and drove you mad if you used it, and things like that. There was just all sorts of God. We used so many different things.
There was one that just killed you as well. Do you remember the one that Joe used and it just killed him?
I think it was you were immortal as long as you had it, but it sucked your soul into it. So as soon as you gave it to anyone else, your soul got booted out and you died. And then we forgot to brief properly on that one, so he just died, which was probably not our finest hour as LARP runners.
But all of those just came from going around the Glasgow charity shops and hauling weird shit off the shelves. It's like a vase, must have come from Atlantis. Old wooden rosary, clearly belonged to Rasputin. So,
yes, that's right.
And Stu, do you have a favourite object?
I'm trying to remember some of them. So there was a jar in the first one, and what I remember about it is were there bees? There were bees involved, and there were wax. People turned to wax. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was because you were bringing in real world objects. So, for example, I believe there's a hand of glory at some point, and a witch bottle.
I found our list from the last Ragnarok thing. So we had things like the Grim King of Trondheim.
Ragnarok, okay. Right.
Yeah, right. Ragnarok was the LARP that kind of became this. It had bits of this in the background. So the Grim King of Trondheim, which was, let's see.
And we had a player who was a member of the Aletheian Society. 70 years later.
Oh wow! If they're available, you should get them to guest at some point, unless their character died, and then obviously that's not possible. But that'd be amazing.
We had the Spear of Destiny, the Koshai's egg from sort of Russian mythology. That was I think that was one that sucked poor Joe's soul out. The Nilotic camel. Jesus, I have no idea what even. We had a lot of weird stuff. Skopje ritual knife for chopping bits off yourself. And
so the what ritual knife?
Skopje were kind of like they were one of the bad guys in Ragnarok, but in real life they were a weird Russian Christian cult that practiced self-mutilation. They would basically cut their genitals off and stuff like that. Okay. And they were quite common throughout Europe because they kind of got ejected from Russia. So there was lots of them sort of in different places throughout Europe at one point.
So they died out.
It was amazingly popular for a cult that believed that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Stu, the one of the reasons that I wanted to let the music play out from the end of that minisode was that is the theme I assume that you composed on the guitar in metal mode.
Yep.
At some point it would be amazing. I don't know, I don't know whether it would be just a Patreon thing, because I am led to understand that you do have a Patreon for Tales of the Aletheian Society. Yes.
We do. It's been paused for during the
COVID.
pandemic.
Will you be reactivating it?
We've got some new material, we will, but I think it's
Yeah.
not fair to activate it until we've got something to give people.
But
That seems-
all the content's there for existing subscribers. We're just
Right.
remembering every month not to take any money off them.
Fantastic. But yes, it'd be amazing to hear that at some point in its original heavy metal form.
I mean, I can probably do that. I've been playing very much recently, so I'm a bit out of practice. But yeah, can do that at some point.
That guy from Stranger Things, what's his name? Munson. Full Eddie Munson.
No spoilers.
Oh no, it's
Plays a guitar. That's a spoiler. In a particularly cool way.
But he's not playing Running Up That Hill, more importantly. He is playing a much cooler to be played on a guitar song, which I won't give away. Gosh, so the next piece that we have to listen to is Gillespie's Christmas Carol. Now, this could just be a piece about a Christmas, Christmas and carols, etc. But it's not. Can you tell me, Chris, what the inspiration? Why?
Oh, this time this was Jude's one. We deliberately chose one each that we written. So.
Right. I see. So Jude, this, because Christmas Carol is a piece that is sort of, it has been very much parodied, it's been pastiched, it's been all kinds of things. Why choose Christmas Carol? Was there something specific about Gillespie that really lent himself to that, or what was it about?
I think we wanted to do a Christmas special, and I'd just taken the kids to the panto, and we saw a Christmas Carol, so that was where it came from. But I think the fact that it has been so pastiched and retold a million times with and without Muppets meant that it had just that right level of familiarity that we could then subvert. And I think the Aletheian Society is quite often taking pot shots at sort of the great historical works of literature and that sort of thing. So it was ideal for that. But yeah, it's Christmas minisode.
Fantastic. And do you have a favorite piece within it? Oh, actually, no, we can't talk about that because we haven't heard it yet. Stoo, what kind of in terms of the music and the carols, did you have, like, because I know, Jude, that you have a background in folk music, etc., composing and also orchestrating. Did you and Stoo work together on that? Did everybody work on it? How did that all come together?
One of these whole cast things. We've got quite a few singers on the cast, so we just ended up caroling away.
So all I did was put a microphone in front of them.
Oh, the simplest jobs are often the best, Yeah,
it was. There's actually you'll hear it in a minute, but there's no processing on that at all. It was just microphone, or I think 2 microphones in front of them, and a couple of, maybe not even 2 takes. It might have even been the first take.
Wow.
It's all them. It's all them.
Excellent. Well, I sort of do want to talk about it. So maybe if we go straight in and listen to it. It is a longer piece. I believe it is about 8 to 9 minutes. I've been let know that my face appeared in the corner of the video feed whilst it was playing. I will attempt to not be distracting. I'm not entirely certain how to stop my video doing its thing, but I will try and be not distracting. But if I can ask our lovely guests to step back, and yes, we will go ahead and listen to the next piece. So, Tales of the Aletheian Society, Gillespie's Christmas Carol.
Shadow Factories and We Evolve presents Gillespie's Christmas Carol.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay.
Damn your eyes, Gillespie. Answer the accursed door.
Aye, Dr. Cadwallader.
Comfort and joy, oh tidings of comfort and joy.
What in the hell is this?
Merry Christmas, sir.
It's no Christmas till the morrow.
Why, yes, sir, true enough. But on this, the eve of our Saviour's birth, what better way to welcome his coming than by joining in song and in charitable giving?
And when was Christmas ever about charitable giving?
Yes, very droll. We're collecting for the building of the new church on Observatory Road.
Church of Scotland, is it?
Why, yes, it is.
Free Church of Scotland?
Well, all denominations are welcome to worship with us, of course.
Heretics, blasphemers, dissenters and malcontents, begone and take your instruments of Satan with you.
Blasted old Gillespie, what's all that hullabaloo?
Nothing, Doctor. Just some godless heathens begging to fund their lives of sin.
They were jolly good carol singers for heathens. I do love this time of year. Mulled wine, Christmas trees, all those lovely old English traditions.
English traditions? Glühwein and the Tannenbaum are hardly English traditions.
But that hardly leaves us with any of the good ones.
I don't see what all the fuss is about. Most folk here don't even get the day after work.
Working? On Christmas Day?
Just know that big a thing. Hogmanay now, that's something to look forward to. A big night out on the bevy and New Year's Day in your scratch. That's more like it.
I see Dr. Cadwallader has spent the year training diligently for the occasion.
As far as I'm concerned, you can stuff your season of goodwill to all men. I'm looking forward to a week of crass commercialism, overeating and wanton drunkenness.
Ah, the true spirit of Christmas.
And what about you, Mr. Gillespie? Surely you must appreciate the wonder of the festive season.
Christmas isn't for festive wonder, Lord Arthur, any more than it's for stuffing your fat face or filling your belly with sinful liquor. It's for silent contemplation of your sins and true repentance in the hope the Lord will spare you the fires of damnation. Ideally sitting on a hard chair in an unheated kirk, as is traditional.
I might drop by the chapel later for midnight mass, come to think of it. I'm no much for the God bothering, but it's social, like.
It's no for being social. It's for worship.
Oh, do stop your yammering, man. In fact, shouldn't you be upstairs in miserable contemplation of the divine by now?
Only if you've no further work for me for the night, Doctor.
No, I think I've had quite enough of you for this night, or any night, Mr. Gillespie.
As you prefer, sir.
Well, suppose we ought to finish the bottle. Waste not, want not, eh?
Papists and foreigners and gluttons and Anglicans in Hunter House. Wasn't this in Dr. Pritchard's day? Strange, that window wasn't opened earlier. Somebody's playing silly buggers with a window.
Ah, I am the ghost of Christmas, come to lead you from your path of wickedness and sin to righteousness and goodwill to all humanity.
You wit. Is this some sort of joke?
Take my hand, and I shall show you Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas that is yet to be.
Is there no supposed to be three of you?
Cutbacks, mate. Look, I'm just here to do my job. Can we get on with it?
All right then. I haven't got all night.
Go! Mon, we need a goalie!
That's wee Billy Stevenson. I've no seen him in must be 50 years.
I don't know, Billy. My dad doesn't like me playing football. He catches me a leather me.
Your dad's not here. We need a goalie. You don't have to be any good. Just stretch your big lanky arms out. There'll be no room for the ball to get past you.
Yeah, I don't know. Just one game then.
Go on yourself, Gil. What a save.
I remember that day. I was happy. remember what happened next.
Da, I wasn't. I didn't mean to. Ah!
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Say it.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. But it was just a game, da. Ah! Ah!
The wages of sin are death.
Sorry, da.
A valuable life lesson I learned that day. There's nae room for frivolity in a godly life.
We could put them up on the mantelpiece. I mean, if you insist.
Oh, must we?
But if we lose them...
Wait a minute. This is Hunter Hoose. Is that us done already?
Hush, and behold, Christmas present.
You're awfully unkind to him, you know, Dr. Cadwallader.
Unkind? Bah! The old goat deserves everything he gets. He's a miserable, joyless, cadaverous old spectre who takes his only joy in making my life a misery. It's only fair I should return the favour.
I imagine Mr. Gillespie would say exactly the same of you.
No, nobody would call Dr. Cadwallader cadaverous. Unless it was one of the ones they fish out the river after they've been bobbing about for a while.
Don't you want to, well, bury the hatchet, so to speak?
Only if I could bury it in his skull. No, I wouldn't kiss and make up with the wretched old ghoul, not if he came crawling to me on bended knee and begged.
Aye, that'll be the day, you bloated old gluttonous ne'er-do-well.
Right, time to move on again. Christmas yet to be. Here we come. Behold, the future that will come, if you do not change your ways.
The necropolis.
And whose name is it upon this tombstone?
Mine. That's a nice piece of granite right there. I've got it all paid up with a co-op. Nice to see they've done a good job.
But your future lies in the grave.
You say that like it should be a surprise to anyone.
You lie alone and unmourned, none to visit the clay where you lie, or lay flowers on your grave.
Well, waste of time, doing all that for the deed. I'll have gone to my eternal reward. I'm no caring about a bunch of lilies and a domiciliary visit.
Repent, turn from your path of selfish bitterness, and embrace the true meaning of Christmas. Wait, is that your name on the tombstone?
Aye, there it is. Like I said, nicely carved too.
Gillespie? That's your name? Shit, sorry, I've got the wrong man. I must have got the addresses mixed up. God, I'm so sorry to have wasted your time. I'd better get on with the actual job. Merry Christmas then. Bye.
Once I had a curried rattlesnake. Surprisingly good.
And about time too, as if I had anything to repent for. I wouldn't change my ways, not if every ghost in Glasgow was to drop by. Although...
You're back, Gillespie. Have you decided to join us after all? Go on, Doctor. Welcome him in. Would you like a drink?
No, Lord Arthur. I've had my share of spirits for the evening. There's been a ghost in Hunter Hoose, but I've dealt with it while you've been sat here in sloth and gluttony.
Oh, well done then, Gillespie. It's been drawn to my attention that I may have been a little brusquer with you than is strictly necessary. None of us would choose to be stuck in this wretched city, but there's no reason we can't work together in some sort of cooperative spirit. So, Merry Christmas, Gillespie. Here's to a better New Year than the one we've just had.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, Doctor. I wouldn't have thought you had the insight to see where you were wrong and the courage to admit it. And with that in mind, there's only one thing I can say. You can take your reconciliation. You can ram it right up your hairy, bloated, sweaty, lumbering arse.
Well then, God bless us everyone.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. stay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Saviour was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Thank you very much. If I can welcome our creative team back to the screen. Well, Gillespie, a man who seems to be made of granite and lead.
Voiced by the excellent Graham Jimison.
Yes.
Who brings a great deal to the role of Gillespie.
And is also the main voice in DSA as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him in that, but excellent.
Range.
So, yes, if you'd like to talk, Jude, would you like to talk about your favorite bit of that? Now that we have listened to the glory that it is.
Well, just listening to it there, I think it has to be Chris's inspired bit of ad-libbing towards the end. I once ate a curried rattlesnake. Surprisingly good. And everyone corpsing up after that was real. It was good. I also like the fact that Gillespie is so unthreatened by the notion that he's going to die.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. I've got my grave. See, look, I paid for it, and I've done all the things. Not wasted. Nobody is beholden to me. I've not put anyone in debt. I've done all the good things. No, I'm all right. He's just remarkably okay about it all. Chris, what was your favorite thing about that adaptation? Or maybe the
no, I think it's just generally Graham's delivery is just brilliant. He just really inhabits the character. Sometimes he just, like when we were just mucking about recording, he'll just slip into that voice, or when we're gaming or something, he'll slip into that voice and say something as Gillespie, and it's he's very, very good at the sort of vocal work.
The deadpan.
Yeah.
He definitely has immovable ages etched, nay carved. Another thing I liked about it, and something that folks will have been treated to, is we don't very often get to hear Scots spoken, and so it's lovely to have that language brought to literature, if you like. Did you enjoy voicing it? Did you enjoy playing with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah.
I sometimes I know for myself, I'm Australian. I came to the UK in 1998. So I've been here a fair while. And I know that I get nervous sometimes when I start hearing it. I'm going, oh my goodness, am I going to understand? Am I going to understand? And then if I just really just relax and let it wash over me, I just understand. If I stress at it, if I kind of like, what are the words? I find that I struggle. But if I just let it wash over me, it's just, I find it really easy to just glean the understanding. For Stoo, this is not this is not your natural dialect. How are you with the Scots? How did you find working with the Scots dialect?
Well, I don't really voice anything on the show, so I can't do accents. But like moving up here, it was sometimes a struggle to understand people to start off with. I had the place I worked when I first came up here, I had many conversations with our cleaning lady, and I didn't understand most of them. She had a very broad accent. And yeah, to start off with, I couldn't really pick up what she was saying, but we kind of got there in the end. I kind of, picked it up eventually. And one thing I remember clearly is waiting for the bus home, and I could hear two people talking, and they were both Glaswegian. And they could both understand each other, so they were having a conversation, but I could only understand one of them, and the other his accent was so broad that I just couldn't get a thing to start off with, and that was really interesting to me because they could understand each other, and I could understand one, but why couldn't I understand the other one? And eventually it came. Like it took. I've been living here 10 years now, and now it's fine. But yeah, it did take a good 6 months to 12 months to actually.
To get your ear in, I think is a useful phrase.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, you came from Norfolk, yes?
Yeah.
And
Orange.
That's a very different dialect.
Yeah. I mean, it has its own idiosyncrasies as well. I mean, you can find some people in Norfolk who you won't be able to understand as well.
Absolutely. Chris, my understanding is that you are born elsewhere in the UK and not in Glasgow. Is that right?
Well, I am Scottish. I've just never had a particularly strong accent. But I wasn't born in Glasgow, but it was the nearest big city to where I grew up. So I was it's like the bright lights to me. So I always wanted to come to Glasgow, and I came here for uni and just never left.
I see.
And I think I've never had like much of an accent personally, but I think what writing the show, maybe for Jude too, is like the whole time we've been doing it, you sort of listen out for stuff locals are saying and try and remember it. I think I have spreadsheets, or not spreadsheets. I've got like notepad kind of things of like, this is just some great patter that I've heard on the streets. Like we used one that was shake your boot like an empty tracksuit, which was something a woman in my work. She's like, you watch it, son, and I'll shake your boot like an empty tracksuit. And I think we used it somewhere. That was something a woman in my work used to say. And basically it's just, you do very much keep an ear open for all the cool sort of little expressions that are in Glasgow as you go.
And are they particularly Glaswegian? I do have one or two other Scots friends. I have a gentleman I work with from Dundee, and I'm sure he has his few words that are very particular to there.
Well, there's loads of accents, but I'm not sure we've used that many. I mean, we've used Edinburgh, we've used Glasgow. We had a guest guy who was from Dundee who did one thing. But I used to live up in the northeast of Scotland for a while, and the accent there is like, I fit like and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know if I could write characters that use that continuously. I think it would drive me bonkers.
It's mostly Glasgow and west of Scotland that we use. There's a fair bit of Ayrshire slang that gets in as well.
Right. Cool. Because it is important to write what you know, even when you're writing fantastical and horrific things. So where you have gotten to with season 3, obviously I don't know what the plot happens, because as I said, I'm only halfway through season 2 at the moment. Do you have plans? Do you have hopes, desires, dreams to continue for Creator season 4? Was it on a cliffhanger? Then you're going to come back to.
Yep.
The cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Certainly ended on a real cliffhanger. Yeah. And
and you've left people hanging for years. Outrageous.
We had another series that we were working on, but then COVID came along just as we got to the point where we'd recorded a few episodes of that, and we just haven't recovered the impetus yet. But yeah, we had a sort of comedic fantasy series called Yesterday's Heroes about just sort of an old adventuring group, like a very old adventuring group, kind of getting back together to do one last job. And
one last job.
But I think we just got about the first half of the episodes in the can, and then it just didn't become possible to do any more.
No, and quite understandable and reasonable. But you hope to? Do you hope to do both of these things?
Yeah, we do hope to. Yes.
Yeah,
and sorry.
Season 3 deals with a lot of the fallout from season 2, I think is safe to say, and we did certainly leave it on quite an explosive cliffhanger at the end of season 3.
So what happened in season 1? It takes place all in Glasgow itself. Has a very dramatic ending.
Which is a real event. It was a real event. No spoilers, but that was a real event.
Awesome. I see, and that's what I really love. I really love that ability to weave the two together, because that, I don't know, grounds it somehow. It's not just flighty. It's grounding in a what might be way. But obviously season 2, the team moves to Edinburgh, as we've discussed. Do they stay in Edinburgh?
Season 3 is back in Glasgow.
Right. And then are they likely to move away again, or?
We certainly mentioned some international plot threads that might come in season 4.
Okay, cool. And is there, I'll ask you this individually, certainly Chris and Jude, and Chris, I'll start with you. Is there a character type, maybe, or even a real world character that you would love to introduce into the Aletheian Society, but that just isn't able to fit in there, or is covered by somebody else, so it kind of is redundant? Is either a real figure or a figure in your imagination?
I did have a story half written about what's the prime minister that used to chop down trees all the time? And then someone else wrote. We did a book as well. We did a book of short stories set in the
yes, we did.
And somebody used that prime minister, so I could no longer make him a crazy Jack the Ripper figure with his axe. I can't remember what his name was now, but basically he used to plant oak trees and chop down oak trees, and he was like about 70 or something and still chopping down an oak tree and planting an oak tree every day or something mad.
Was this a Scots prime minister, or
no? Was it Gladstone? Maybe I can't even remember.
Okay.
I'm just a really enthusiastic lumberjack, and I thought that's great. Someone who really knows how to use an axe is a very sinister figure in some ways.
And you, Jude, is there anyone or anything that you wish you could bring in, but it's just not a thing?
I would love to do the Oscar Slater case as an Aletheian Society adventure, but it's a little bit too late. It's well into the 20th century. I did write a short story about it featuring Sophia and Arthur's daughter.
Wow.
I've actually written a few stories with her in it. Hilda Roxburgh, the Honourable Hilda Roxburgh, occultist and adventurous. And I submitted it to a magazine for publication. It was also a Sherlock Holmes story. They said there wasn't enough Sherlock Holmes in it. So that one has sunk without a trace, but I may bring it out again sometime.
Maybe if you write a second Aletheian Society anthology, it can go in there.
Yeah.
Perhaps?
No, Holmes got feedback saying Holmes was pretty much incidental to the plot, and to be fair, that was true. He just trailed around.
There are lots of Holmes stories, why should he get to hog all the limelight? Stu, is there a musical avenue that you would like to go down that you haven't yet? Is there a sound effect that you haven't yet been able to make that you would like to use, haven't found a reason to use?
So I was then looking at the music that I have, produced for the entire show. There are 10 songs in there, including a rendition of Oranges and Lemons. So, I mean, maybe there's an album in that somewhere at some point.
That would be very cool.
Yeah. Just sort of in the style, maybe. That could be interesting. But yeah, what have I got? Like the DSA theme tune, the piano theme. There's a Godalming theme. That's a separate.
There is, yeah.
You heard it first here, people.
the banjo theme as well.
Banjo theme. Scotland the Brave. I've got a version of.
I'm feeling an album coming on.
Yeah, so Macpherson's Farewell. That was Banjo's Rant, wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, there could be an album. There could be an album in there somewhere.
Either for your Patreons or available on your website. I mean, look, there are people out there who buy soundtracks, and love their soundtracks. I occasionally write to Lord of the Rings soundtracks, particularly, a lot of the Elvish stuff, because it's really nice and floaty, and I need no words in my music when I'm doing work. So, there are people who buy these things. So you definitely should.
The Fountain soundtrack, if you've heard that, that's my go-to for writing.
So the which?
The Fountain soundtrack. That's my go-to.
The Fountain.
Fountain,
It's a good soundtrack. That.
Okay, I hadn't heard of it. Is it a film or a TV series? Or
it's a film, yeah. But the I'm going to forget his name now.
Darren Aronofsky.
Yes, so that's the director. I was thinking of the composer.
Clint Mansell.
Yes, Clint Mansell. He does amazing soundtracks. That's what I use for writing. It's always very good. Often very sinister. So
fantastic. So there is still life in Victoriana.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you have ideas for the next season or even beyond? Like, do you know what will happen in season 4? You just haven't got to it yet, or?
We've certainly got ideas. We might in fact have too many ideas.
Yeah. We've left a lot of plot threads hanging over 3 series.
How do you choose? How do you choose which plot threads to follow?
Well, we don't. Usually what happens is Chris just generates more plot lines, and I say every time, should we not start tying some of these up? And he goes, it'll be fine. So eventually we are going to have to start tying some of them up eventually.
I think the end of season 3 could tie them all up because,
Yes, if we weren't going to write any more, yes.
No, I mean, no matter where we go, it could all be different, couldn't it? It could all be different.
It does feel appropriate given the amount of tentacles that I can see in the backgrounds of the people before me. It does feel appropriate that there are multiple threads and tentacles of themes and stories going about. Is there one theme that you would like to pursue that maybe you haven't yet, or a favorite one of, we've done it 2-3 times, but I don't care. I'm just going to keep plumbing this one because I love it. Jude, anything in particular that you're
I would like
wanting to do or loving?
Well, the recurring jokes I like, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon.
Such as?
Well, there's one that Gillespie does quite often, which I'll not spoil if people haven't heard it, but it's got a distinctive sound effect. Then Gillespie says something that's alluded to, and we are never going to tell you what that is. Cool. What I would like to, I'd like to look at Sophia's backstory, because it is clear that she has a backstory. So what she did before she joined the society, and I've been trying for ages to get us to write something about Mrs. Gillespie, who remains a shadowy offstage figure, but who eventually I think should be brought kicking and screaming into the light.
Is she alive?
I'm not at liberty to comment.
I see. We can neither confirm nor deny the vital status of Mrs. Gillespie. And sorry, and is that his mother or is that a wife?
I'm again unable to comment.
And I didn't confirm. Or deny.
Just reference. She's a good cook, and that's literally all we know about her.
Okay. Chris, for you, same question.
I think. I'm having a brain meltdown, but Cadwallader's Batman, the sort of sinister plot there have been hanging over it for 3 seasons and becoming more obvious with every passing season, but we've never actually got to the point where it's quite come into the open exactly. So I really like to get that sort of done, just so we tie up one loose end.
Please, God.
Please, one.
We've got some stuff with Europe that might be fun or not. I don't know. We'd really have to think about if we can make it an actually fun thing to present, because I don't want to get bogged down in stuff that's not actually fun to listen to. Even if it involves good ideas.
And if I can ask, what this is slightly left field, but sort of again in the vein, what is one book or film or television series that you find particular inspiration for when creating stuff for the Aletheian Society? Stoo?
I don't know. I mean, because
could be more than one, but
yeah, because I'm not writing, I'm not really taking like literature as an influence.
Sure. Are there any television or even just composers in general?
Yeah, Clint Mansell was definitely a big influence on the theme tune. Sort of thinking back to that.
Okay, what about his work that you're finding helping drive that inspiration?
I think it's very dramatic, and it has a lot of stops and starts, so it kind of like reaches a crescendo and you think that's it, but then it stops and then it builds it all back up again, and I like that as a kind of a thing.
It makes you think on your sins and then brings it all back to you.
Yeah,
this is what you have wrought.
Yeah, you think you're done and it's not over. It's definitely not over.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I mean, Clint Mansell's I think is very good for writing, like the Moon soundtrack I like as well. It's very, just helps you focus. Was it minimalist kind of music, I guess? So not quite Philip Glass, but kind of ballpark.
Yeah, there's a lot of repetition in there, and I do like repetition in music. I like I said before, I like reusing things because you can get more out of it. You can do it in a different way, and it kind of changes what it is. But you don't have to write so much. You're not like they're going, I need a new melody for something. You can repurpose themes.
Yeah, absolutely, and they can tell you things. John Williams is very much about that, and even just with the Star Wars, the themes within Star Wars themes, Star Wars. You just change the orchestration, and that can change the meaning of that theme hugely. So communicative, in terms of character or plot or.
Yeah, but you can recognize something is going to happen because of the music, because that theme is now coming up.
Yes,
yeah, that's very good. Another thing that's in regards to music, the Mandalorian TV show, the music is absolutely wonderful, and that's been a thing which has got me like playing again. So that's been really good.
Oh, awesome! Ironic because it's nothing like this Victoriana, but it is fascinating where inspiration strikes because it often is left field. Jude,
I absolutely love Tim Power's work, and I think he's pretty much the undisputed master of secret history writing. And I love the way he weaves real life events through his fictional stories. In fact, a rule of his that I've read is that he never changes the historical facts. So everything fantastical has to fit perfectly into history for him. Nice. We bend it about a bit. I think probably because not a huge amount happens in Glasgow compared to the whole world. So we've had to change some dates a little bit, but usually we do try and keep it roughly right. And I love just having that undercurrent of this could have happened. Maybe this happened and you didn't notice, which I think he does brilliantly. And in terms of Victoriana, I love the Mangle Street Murders by M.R. Kasazian, which are a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes pastiche, but just so beautifully written and really, the emotion is absolutely brilliant, and you really care about the characters. And then he does horrible things to them, which I just think is the pinnacle of good writing.
Do terrible things to characters, do terrible things to players. It's absolutely. Yourself, Chris?
Well, I think there was a book called Moriarty, Hound of the D'Urbervilles, which I read sometime before we actually wrote this, and that's basically it's a false sort of Sherlock Holmes thing where basically it was done from the point of view of Moran, his Moriarty's sidekick,
right?
And I really enjoyed that. And I think some of that sort of leaked into Cadwallader. So yeah, it's Colonel Moran, and it was that by Kim Newman. There you go. Right, all that kind of thing. Yeah, I like Tim Powers too. I think originally I wrote Cadwallader as a character for a role-playing game that my friend Mike Charleston ran for us back in uni a long time ago.
So this has been sitting with you for a very long time.
He was originally just this mad botanist who was basically a botanist just to brew his drugs, and
of course
very fond of his fashionable cocaine and so on.
Right.
I've got a lovely picture somewhere that one of the players drew of me with just a sort of burnt twig of left of whatever I've been inspecting and destroying and what have you. But yeah, his game was just brilliant, very, very well run. And I think that gave me a kind of general love of the Victorian Cthulhu sort of milieu. I'm not a huge fan of Cthulhu as a system, but as a sort of setting, yeah, it's great.
Excellent.
And we're not strictly Cthulhu.
Sorry, say again?
We're not strictly Cthulhu. We are.
Yeah. No,
there
are tentacles, but I mean, I'm not up on my Cthulhu, but I don't feel a whole load of that influence other than it is the depths of despair and insanity. I certainly haven't felt, or maybe I should have been feeling that the Great One was looming over us, but I didn't get that. I did really very much get from it that this is Victoriana, and it is the ladies in heel boots running with skirts hiked, running through things, pulling pistols potentially from corsets and various other places. It is quite I want to say boys' own adventure, but with more of an equality kick to it. We've had someone comment that John Garner wrote wrote several Moriarty novels. So if you haven't checked those out, potentially, if you're interested in, I would assume that the Batman is his Batman Moran is in there somewhere. But that is quite interesting. You have to follow up on that. I think we should probably very slowly start to wrap things up. It's been an absolute delight and pleasure to have you with us. Do you have anything any last things that is kind of bursting to share with us? Any last thoughts, musical, sound effects, inspirations, characters that you would like to leave us with an image before you go?
There's a sound effect in it's the Neil Gaiman TV series.
Which one? Good Omens or?
No, earlier. Set in the sewers. Oh, not sewers. The subway.
Neverwhere.
Oh,
Neverwhere. Thank you. There's a bit in that where they golf club hitting a frog against a wall. I'd like to redo that because that's a hell of a sound effect. You've got
it's a complex sound effect.
Yeah, but it's great. Yeah, because thwack and a splat all at once. That's great. I'd like to do that at some point. So if we're new series, golf club and frog.
Okay, so get to writing. There has to be something which has a thwack and a splat. Mm-hmm. Who knows what that will translate to? Any other things?
I think a surprising number of our sound effects were achieved practically by forcing me to eat things very quickly. Crackers and a banana at the very least. My
team leader very much liked the banana and was like, "Oh, I must listen out for that." Jude, any last thoughts, images you'd like to leave us with?
I guess just because the spectre of Lovecraft has been raised, we like to think that we've taken all the best bits, we've stolen all his best work, and we've left out the casual racism.
Which, deserves to be left behind, well and truly. That is awesome. And yes, I absolutely, for folks who are going to come to this anew, yes, there is, so we have sexism and we have some religious tensions, and Jude, remind me of other themes that are through there. There are conflicts, real world conflicts that are represented.
A lot of classism in there.
Classism, yeah, absolutely. But in my opinion, so far, I have found those to be, and everyone's mileage will vary because your life experience is yours, and we can't speak entirely to that, but I felt that you dealt with those really well, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was being quite as oppressed as I am in the real world. I think that's probably the best way to put it. So well done. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. If I can get you to hold on just one moment, because I am just going to do a couple of bits of wrapping up. You have this evening been here with the Glasgow in 2024 Presents, which we are currently the bid team for getting Worldcon to Glasgow in 2024. If you want to find out more, then if you go to glasgow2024.org to find out more. This month, all the way up to the 31st of July, is the last chance that you will have to gain membership of the convention, hopefully when we win it. Which will be voted on in September, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But this is your last opportunity to gain membership at its absolute cheapest. If you go to the website and check out the information about supporting the bid, that is where you will find those details. If you can support us, that would be very much appreciated, because it will help us in our run up to what we hope will be a fantastic event in August in 2024. I would also like to let you know about a few events that we've got coming up. We have the last of the pre-Hugo Award book clubs happening on the 2nd of August. We have a very busy couple of weeks coming up. That is going ahead on the 2nd of August. There is Meet the British Fantasy Society. That is on the 3rd of August. And on August the 18th, we have a chat with Miles Cameron, who is the author of Against All Gods, and he will be chatting to one of our presenters with regards to his book and thoughts and feelings, and his all things writing with regards to the book. So yes, a very busy couple of weeks. Eventbrite is where you'll get all your ticketing information, but also on our socials. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we are also on Instagram. That's the one. So have a look for where we are. Do come along. If you want to find out more about Tales from the Aletheian Society, then please either look to the chat, where I believe we've posted links, and or just Google it. They are fabulous. They are lovely. And thank you all very much for being here.
For having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And I wish you all good night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.